Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. Um, as hopefully most of you guys know, I am in the insurance business mostly. I do some other things too, but the insurance is something I've been doing for the last 40 years, long time. And insurance, for the most part, is basically leveraging your bet. If you think of it that way. The easiest way is in the life insurance side. When you buy a life insurance policy, you're betting you're going to die. Insurance companies betting you're going to live because they only pay if you die. So just like the odds in a horse race, the risk or the odds of you dying, as the odds go up, the cost goes up. So the closer we get to death, we're all going to die. The closer we get to death, the more expensive it gets. And managing the risk can reduce the cost. Now, with life insurance, it's a little tough, but most of the insurance that I do is property and casualty insurance, which is, automobile homeowners, small business, large businesses, all those kind of things. So if you think of common sense ways of being safer at what you do with your business, that's going to keep your costs down, your insurance costs down. It's going to keep your risk down of having a loss. And by doing that makes it cheaper for you over time, typically. So let's go for some basic risks, okay? So on insurance, the basic risk that people get insurance for, property and casualty insurance for, is property, which is your property or their property, meaning the property you own. If it gets damaged or stolen or whatever, you want to be protected. You want to have coverage for that. The property they own, if it gets damaged by you or by someone that you caused the damage, that's liability protection that covers their property. Injury. If you get injured, that's not covered under your own policy. You can't injure yourself and be covered unless you have health insurance, then that would cover your injuries. But typically the injury liability coverage would be for them. So if you cause their injuries or somebody's injuries, that would be liability. In other words, you may be held responsible for that. And those are the two main coverages on insurance. If you own a business, as everybody here basically owns a business, then you may be held liable for employees. If you have employees, if they injure somebody, then you may be held liable. Or something to do with your business may have caused an injury down the road for somebody, or damaged something of theirs. They may come back to your business and hold your business liable. The key thing with that is that you may not be liable. There may be an instance where really you have nothing to do with it. However, you may have sold them the item, or you may have participated somehow in what caused their injury. And so even though you may not be liable, you may get sued. And the biggest cost a lot of times in the insurance industry is the defense cost, the cost to represent you, to keep you from being held liable. Because if you just ignore it, it won't go away. Typically, if you don't go to court because you're on a lawsuit and you don't go to court to defend it, then they just find you guilty because you never showed up. So you have to defend yourself. That's the other big part of an insurance policy is the defense cost. It protects you as best as possible when you're sued. The one thing that we always tell people on an insurance policy is there's no, and Jake, you would know this, there's no stupidity clause in a policy. Okay? So if you think about that, so many times, just like driving an automobile, how many accidents are based on stupidity? Just based on, you're like, how in the world did they do this? How did this happen? Same thing can happen in your business. An employee could do something, you might do something one day when you're half asleep, and you're like, how did I do this? And it causes damage, it causes injury. There's no stupidity clause. So because you did something that was absolutely ridiculous, or somebody did something ridiculous, It doesn't affect, it doesn't keep the policy from covering you. It doesn't exclude it. So you never have to worry about that. So let's look at some risks, okay? I'm trying to take a kind of a group, a little mix of the group, of right in the group. So we have computer people, we have social media, Candido financial advisors, bookkeeping, Maggie, physical therapy, Michelle, nutrition, all these kind of things. If you think about, okay, well, I do something, I know exactly what I'm doing. There's really no risk in my industry. Think kind of outside the box. People are creative today in what happens to them, and nobody wants to take responsibility. So it's always somebody else's fault. So, Michelle, you may have somebody doing certain things that is normally fine for anybody, but they may do it a little bit wrong, or they may do too many, or push themselves too hard and causing a different kind of injury. And then they turn around and say it's your fault that it happened. You never know. It could be anything. Sue, look at, the nails, right? I don't know what kind of risk there could be with that. You think it's something very simple and everything, but who knows? They might get a bad infection in their finger, and they say, well, I remember putting the color street nail stuff on, and the week later I had this infection. Well, they forget the part that, they stuck their finger in something, and, that was, full of rust or whatever, and they got a bad infection because of it. They think, oh, it's because of this color street nail stuff I put on. Let me sue. These things happen all the time out there. It's not just the trip and fall where somebody's walking past and your sidewalk is a little high and they trip on it and they fall down, or they slip in the supermarket because somebody dropped a banana peel or spilled some water. And even though, you block it off with shopping carts and tape and whatever, and don't go here, people still go there anyway. They're like, well, why can't I go here? And they'll go there, they'll fall, and they sue. There is times where we've paid claim for someone who fell through a skylight when they were trying to rob a house. They were trying to burglarize a house. They climbed up on the roof, they fell through the skylight and got injured, and the insurance company paid out a claim to them for their injuries, even though they were illegally there or they were not invited, but the insurance company paid out. So it happens, and you always want to make sure you have the right protection when that comes about. And you're as good as you may be in your industry, you never know. Sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with you. It's just timing. It just might be, somebody needs something, somebody's hurting, they need money from somewhere, and they came up with an idea and say, hey, I could get it from here, because insurance companies, they like to pay no matter what. But if you don't have the proper coverage, then you're kind of screwed, because even to defend yourself is going to cost yourself a lot of money, and you got to make sure that you have something there to protect that. A lot of us work from home. Homeowners policies are very limited in what they protect you on if you're running a business out of your house. So check your policies, check with your agent. I can always take a look at your policies if you need to see.
2 minutes.
Thank you. If there's anything that, that you should do or you shouldn't do. Jake still, even though that's not his thing anymore, he still knows a lot about everything. So he's another guy that you could always ask a question of. Let's see. Now, there's professional liability policies, if anybody's heard of. Rochelle, like in the medical field, particularly malpractice, they call it, because I guess in the medical field, they're always practicing. They never really get it right. So they've got to make sure they're, and it's typically medical malpractice is typically having to do with the human body. But errors and omissions coverage or professional liability, errors and omissions typically for accountants, realtors, insurance, tech people, computer, all that kind of stuff. And then regular malpractice, attorneys and medical. So there's different variations of it. It's all kind of the same thing. It's all professional liability. It has to do specifically with your industry and if you make errors in your industry. So, it's not trip and fall. It's not, those kind of things. It's if you specifically do something wrong that you're supposed to be the expert at, that can happen also anytime. Even though it may seem like you're doing the right thing, maybe another person in the industry thinks it's wrong. And if somebody is injured because of it, they may try to sue you because they think that you did the wrong thing. Again,
like if they think you didn't give them enough insurance coverage and they get an accident and then they say, hey, you were supposed to give me more coverage. And then you said, I did tell you to do that. And you said no.
No. So make sure you have everybody sign off on everything. If somebody does something that you don't agree with, that you tell them is something, to do something and they don't do that, or they're doing it wrong, make sure they sign off on that saying they understand that they're doing it wrong or they're not following your direction. That's the only way to give yourself a little extra protection.